Well, I'm finding that nowadays more and more people are becoming what they identify with as being spiritual minded and not so much religious minded. Well, when you look into it, you find out that spirituality has to do with dealing with a part of a human being. And when you talk about God, people start getting all upset because it brings religion with it when you talk about a word like that. But religion is just what the human element added to the recognition of God. Religion has probably deceived more people than any other thing in the history of this planet. But listen, when you look out at creation, if you see what I have seen, and I'm just talking about my beliefs here. I am not trying to force you, encourage you, or in any way coerce you into believing as I do. Everything that I'm telling you here is for you just to consider, because I'm not going to tell you what I don't believe, but what I do. And I'm a fallible human being. I could be wrong, and probably am. I have been wrong all my life, and I have corrected myself when I came to find out the truth, one step at a time. So I've taken a lot of steps, and I have had a lot of corrections. Here I am. So I hope this interests you enough to listen and consider these things. Now, I look at the creation around me, and just about everything that I see, I can, if I want to, I could categorize it into just three small categories. Actually, each one is rather large. I shouldn't say small. Everything in the reality that I see can fit into these three categories. Category one is matter. That is, it's made up of matter. And I remember being in school and being told that matter was anything that would take up space and have weight, and then they later added could not be easily created nor destroyed. So that's one category. And then the other category would be energy. Now, most energy is invisible, and that's why people really don't believe in spirit beings. A lot of people don't, because they are beings that have a conscious mind, but their body that they inhabit is an energy body. Now, the law of one refers to it as a light body, and the Holy Bible refers to it as a celestial body, but it's just making a distinction between the material body and the energy body. Anyway, that's two categories of reality: energy and matter. Now, that's kind of hard to imagine right there, but I think the hardest one is the third category, which is information. A lot of people don't even recognize that that's a category. And when something is sentient, that means it's awake, it's alive, and it knows that it's alive. It's aware. Now, can you imagine you who are listening to this, and me? We could be called sentient matter. We are matter, made out of matter. We have weight and we take up space, and yet we know we do. We know that we know. So we are sentient. Imagine having a body of energy and being sentient. Imagine electricity that could talk to you. or heat waves that could cause things to be done because they wanted to. I mean, there's heat energy and light energy, and there's electrical energy and magnetic energy, and there's hydraulic energy, I guess you would call it. And when you think of that, and then you also think of the equation that Einstein came up with, that E equals mc squared, just think about that. Energy is equal to matter, but it's not in its intrinsic form equal to matter. It's another form of matter. So energy equals matter, but there's that c squared, and that constant is the speed of light. So imagine that. So what he's saying here is that, well, you and I both know that ice cubes and water are two forms of the same thing. Now, the difference between them happens to be the amount of heat. But when you look at energy and matter, well, they're the two forms of the same thing, and the difference between them is the speed that it is going or moving or vibrating a frequency. So when you get to be ascended so high into the different frequencies that is connected and related with consciousness, your body would just disappear. In other words, it would become energy and cease being matter. Now that's what Christ did in the upper chamber there when he scared the socks off of a couple people when he just suddenly appeared in a room beside him. By raising his own vibration, he could disappear. By slowing it down, he was there with them. And he always was there with them. They just couldn't see him. But anyway, matter and energy are related, two forms of the same thing. And then how they are different is when you add in the variable of speed. When you add in the variable of heat with water and ice, you see the difference between the two there. So I think everything in creation can be put into two categories or three categories, and the one is information. Now let me give you an idea about that. Now, God is the totality of information. God has a mind. God is sentient. God can be material. God can be energy. But he is sentient information also. He is the lawgiver. Now we'll get into that later. There's physical laws that affect everything that's closely associated with us in this life, in this third dimension or third density world we find ourselves in now. And all of these laws that we deal with every day are physical laws, but God is also the author of laws of the Spirit. We hear some people refer to that as karma. What goes around comes around. We've heard all those things because people have noticed there's something to that. You know, God will not be mocked, the Bible says. It says that for whatsoever a man sows, that also shall he reap. You know, but because, as Solomon said, that the penalty for some kind of an evil act is not meted out immediately, it's ever set in men's heart to do such a thing. You know, they don't care about the penalty because it's down the road so far. You know, if people would just think before they rob somebody, they might not end up in prison off and on for the rest of their life, but they don't. Anyway, take a look at a bunch of these little wooden blocks, for example, that are children's toys that have the alphabet on them. I'm speaking about English right now, but it'll work for any language. And you pour them out on the floor. They are made out of matter. Now, when you consider that you would like to pass on some information, some intelligence, something that is profound maybe and important, you could arrange those blocks because they have the alphabet on them. You could take them and arrange them. And if they were properly arranged, they would convey an idea or a truth, or in some cases even a lie. But that's information out of something that before that they were just a pile of blocks on a floor. They were matter, but information wasn't present. Now, the same thing happens with energy. When a radio or TV station transmits, they have what they call a carrier wave. It is basically a wave of energy that shakes the electrostatic field that's all around us. It just shakes it, shoots through it, and they transmit it out of a radio antenna, a tower near the radio station. But before they do, they run it through, well, a microphone similar to the one that's in front of me. Like right now, my voice actually shakes that carrier wave, and it represents, the tone in my voice has high and low valleys. It has valleys and peaks, and whenever I speak, it's additive. It adds to the potential that's already there and makes that carrier wave have like a little peak on top of it. Or on the other side of the equation there, if I speak a certain way, it detracts from it, and it actually takes away from the amplitude of the signal and makes a valley in it. So that carrier wave then goes out of this microphone, it's amplified and shot out into, say, if I'm on a radio station, out into the air, and as it hits a receiver somewhere, the receiver doesn't want that whole carrier wave. It lets it come in, but then it takes off that little bit of peaks and valleys that I've been adding on there, and it takes that to a certain circuit inside of the receiver and amplifies that, and then steps it down, takes it over to a transducer, and instead of playing it so like I had said it, but doing it so fast that it's imperceptible and you couldn't hear it, it slows it down, and it shakes a speaker. It shakes, you ever see it's kind of like a paper cone on the back of a filter, how it vibrates and jumps back and forth. It is shaking that to the tune of those little peaks and valleys that was laid on that carrier wave. And so now here, where we had the blocks on the floor spelling out something important in matter, but you could see it with your eyes because the alphabet was written on it. Now this intelligence, this information has been added to energy and not matter, and it is coming into your mind through your ears. You're hearing it instead of seeing it. Anyway, the more you look at it, you see information and matter and energy can be used to make just about everything that we see. Now, the soul is in a similar situation. You know, the Apostle James said that a body without a spirit is dead. Well, that tells you there that life is in the spirit. Now, think about that. When a person is born, way before they're born, when they are conceived, what we find is all these little sperm cells competing with each other through the fallopian tube, trying to get there first so they can fertilize the female egg. Now, once that happens, the egg has life. I don't know if you knew it or not, but I got to pause this, I'm sorry, for just a second. Good morning. I hope everyone listening has a good day today. It's a little overcast here in southwestern Pennsylvania this morning. Excuse me. I'm trying a new microphone out today. The other one was causing a lot of problems with crackling sounds in the background. So I'm looking into the subject of the conscious soul today. This is part 2. When a person has proven to himself that a certain thing is true, then obvious changes, usually start to take shape in the way that person lives. And his friends and associates around him sooner or later notice it. So, sincere study convinces us that something must be true. Now, not everybody likes to study things, but those who do are doing it hopefully in a sincere way, and if our study is insincere, we only accomplish deceiving ourselves. And the sad reality of that is a deceived person does not know they're deceived, even if it's self-inflicted. If it's an important thing, a person will be naturally interested in learning more about it once they've discovered the truth about some matter. And if he or she is sincerely pursuing the truth, they'll follow it wherever it leads. And they'll discover more amazing things along the way as they go. If, on the other hand, a person has an axe to grind, well, if they approach any subject with a preconceived opinion, they're certainly going to succeed in deceiving themselves. Proverbs in the Bible. Proverbs 18, that's chapter 18, verse 13, in the Douay-Rheims Bible, reads this way: "He that answers before he hears shows himself to be a fool, and worthy of his confusion." Getting back to the soul, which is the main subject of this broadcast, is what James said. He said that when a body dies, if you got a dead body, it's because the spirit's not there. A body without a spirit is dead. Well, what happens to the spirit? Well, the wisest human being that we know of that ever lived is supposedly ancient King Solomon. Now, King Solomon said that when a person dies, the body goes back into this atom bank we call the earth here. It goes back into the dust, he says, from whence it came. And, he adds, the spirit goes back to God who gave it. So God is the place that all spirit originates. And I don't want to get into the spirit of man and the Holy Spirit and all that right now, because it's so easy for me to get digressing into a different area. But the thing is, I want to tell you this. Now, if we have matter that is sentient, it's because it has a spirit. It is alive. So your conscious mind is your soul. If you start out with a blank spirit, friends, just think, there's really not a soul present there. A soul is a collection. It's you. It's a collection of your memories and your thoughts that differentiates you and makes you unique among all the rest of humanity. Whether you are an American or an Eskimo, Oriental, European, whatever, African, I don't care what it is, you are a unique creation. And you know who created you? You did. God creates by law, and I believe one of his greatest laws, it's almost like a single law, like the law of love. It's evolution. He has put it into this world and into the material world to develop, to take the forces of nature, the hot, the cold, the up, the down, the in, the out, the darkness, the light. You know, even the lack of light changes the design of an organism. If you go into a cave, you see that everything living inside of a cave without the light is white. They're like albinos. Well, that just shows you the effect of the laws of nature. Well, there are spiritual laws also given from this creator. Now, well, what I'm trying to say here is that when you see, you ever get a chance, you ought to watch how the sperm cells do compete with each other up the fallopian tubes, and when they get there in the hundreds, only one fertilizes that egg. Okay, now guess what? That egg has a life of its own now that it didn't have just before that happened, because in just a few more days that egg would pass out and die. It had no life of its own. But since the spirit carrying, well, I know the egg had spirit in it because it was alive too, but the sperm cell that fertilized that egg and the egg itself together, this new unique individual is coming on the scene with zero memories that it can recall. Now, it goes through this lifetime collecting memories, making mistakes, having experiences, and each one of them is unique from everybody else's. Somebody hits their finger with a hammer, and someone else cuts theirs off with a saw. I mean, all through life we have bad experiences, and then we have wonderful and good experiences. We meet somebody who will live with us for the rest of our lives, become a wife, a husband, and we have a family. We see many, many sunrises and sunsets. We go away on vacations. All of those things are unique to the individual. And that's what you become, and I become. Memories, a cluster of memories. Now, according to the law of one, and this makes so much sense to me, since the law of one and the Bible both speak of a veil. According to the law of one, and I would say, supported by the Bible, that you can't remember all of the experiences that you have had, because you have had previous lives and you were reincarnated, building on each lifetime, learning lessons, and that total amount is what your soul is. That you cannot recall even is still your soul, because there is a veil that is put between all of the past lives that you have had and the one you're currently having now. You know, you got to learn lessons, because the program here is to ascend, to be welcomed into the universal family. out there in creation that have gone on before us. Some by, well, this universe is supposed to be 14 billion years old, and the Earth is only 3.8 billion. So some of them got a 10 billion year jump on us. Now, how well do you think they're developed? Anyway, we need to learn to live by the principles of the infinite God, the infinite Creator, the lawgiver. And when we do, we will be ascended to the next level of understanding if we can be trusted to live without hate in the universal population. So, if you can understand this, the soul is the accumulated memories of all past lives plus the one we currently are having now. And if we reach a certain plateau, a certain level, according to what the Creator has set in mind, then when our body dies, we don't die, because life is in the spirit. Well, for the first time, we not only get to realize that we are a sentient being because of having gone through this current lifetime, but for the first time we get to freely remember all of our past lives. That is the soul, the complete compound of memories that we have brought together. Over some people it takes longer than others. You know, one day, the one that we've learned to call Jesus Christ was walking through one of the streets there in the Holy Land, and he had been talking to his disciples, and as he walked along he taught them many things and camped out with them at night. And they were walking along, and this one looked down and saw a blind person, and it sparked a curiosity in his mind. And as they walked past this blind person, he looked back at him, and he looked up ahead to Christ, and he walked up beside him, and he said, "Teacher, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he should be born blind?" Now think about that question. If the man sinned, and he was born, he would have to be sinning before he was born to be born that way. Well, that's just one of the few places in the Bible that it speaks about reincarnation. And I don't know why everyone thinks they have to believe in one or the other, either reincarnation or resurrection. Well, listen, reincarnation makes a lot of sense when it's understood, and I'll have to address that in another program. But there was a fellow one time that asked this Hindu man, I can't remember exactly how it went, but it's worth listening to anyway. He said, I just can't understand how you people believe in reincarnation. How incredible is it that you would continue showing up in this life over and over? And when he finally got done with his opinion and talking, the man from India said, well, I think it's really incredible that I showed up the first time. And it is incredible. It is really incredible what we got laying in store ahead for us. Okay, folks, we've come to the end of the program right now, so I'll see you, or I'll speak with you next time. Good day. Yes, he would have to be sinning before. Well, I'm finding that